So, congratulations to Spotlight for taking home the 2016 Oscar for Best Picture. A lot of great competition out there this year, but I've seen all the nominees from this past year, and yet there's still a long list of Oscar winners I have yet to get to. And around this time of the year, I tend to watch one or two of the Best Picture winners I haven't yet seen. So here's 1967's In the Heat of the Night. Welcome to Debt to Cinema. I'm Stephen Maltmanex.
And I'm Brian Gillis. Like most people, we love going to the theater and catching the latest releases. However, sadly, put a big dent in your wallet.
Fortunately, living in the digital age makes the viewing possibilities endless from the comforts of home.
Many of these films that you can see right from your couch, we're ashamed to say we miss, despite labeling ourselves cinephiles.
So join us as one or both of us cross off a title from our list of shame.
It can be an all-time essential classic,
Or an underrated piece of cinema that's worth giving a shot.
hell, it might just be some trashy film we want the others' opinion on. So sit tight and join us as we pay off our debts, $1 at a time.
In the heat of the night, seems like a cold sweat creeping across my brow. World is in the heat of the night.
Well, it's opening ever for this movie. I didn't know what I seriously didn't understand what was happening with that opening song by Ray Charles.
Yeah.
It threw me for a loop. I thought it was going to be a completely different movie than I thought it was. I was like, I thought this was a Deep South murder mystery with Sidney Poitier being the only black guy on screen. And I was like, oh no, this is a very soulful, feel good movie. And then nope, you were right. You got it right the second time. Don't second guess yourself.
Hey, well,
It's
I'm
hard
sure
to say anything about this movie.
I'm sure it was a great single on the radio, though. But yeah, this movie, Best Picture winner of 1967.
Best supporting actor also for the racist sheriff.
And also, I'm not gonna say coincidentally or uncoincidentally, but with the Oscars so white stuff and all that going on, that's not the reason I picked this, but
It's the reason.
yeah, that's not why. It's just it's there, I guess. Like I said in the opening, I've seen all the Best Picture Oscars, and usually around that time, that's when I start looking at movies mid-December to see what won Best Picture or what was nominated, what was a big thing that I've yet to see, and this was one of them. And yes, just
And it's on HBO Go.
that too. And it just so happens that Oscars So White is a topic right now. But yes, as far as clearly, I'm not going to say subtext, but a big portion of the text of this movie
It's
is
not.
racism.
Yeah, it's not a subtext.
Yeah, but
This is Sparta, Mississippi. Just the name of the city alone, or the town rather, should give you some kind of idea where it's going to go.
yeah, the racial tension is obvious. Although
It's palpable.
I don't think it's just that. I think it's also the separation between the North and the South. And honestly, I have no idea where the South is today. I want to say that with segregation just being resolved, or ideally should have been resolved, but then again, with South Carolina still having the Confederate flag up, I mean, no matter how much I read up on it, I can't confidently say anything because I have never been there.
Yeah.
Really, though, I gotta say that's the best stuff about this movie is the
It's what makes it good.
the racism on the
this
front.
is, this is a good fish out of water story. It's a pretty good murder mystery. It's a fairly good buddy dramedy, but without this important social commentary that the film is entirely engrossed in. It opens with, Sidney Poitier getting arrested because he's the only black guy in town, basically, that they've never seen. Like, he
The
has
way
to
that
be the
that's
murderer.
handled too, it's
Yeah.
pretty.
It-
The guy
it's
just
such-
walks in. He's like, "Oh my god, a black guy! This must be him."
Yeah.
the
And-
way that that's shot, the way that's built up.
That's how the whole movie works. Like,
Racism is absurdly funny in this.
I wouldn't
it's,
say that. I don't
no,
think it's
I
funny.
mean, like
think it's
I was
realistic.
no, like I was laughing, but not in a ha ha ha. That's hilarious. Just kind of like, oh my god,
I
really?
can't
like
believe
this
they
is
actually
yeah.
believe that. Like,
Yeah,
this would
and it's
actually
like
happen, and so sad.
I mean, I can buy, like that's the South and that's the mentality of that time, even still of this time. But it's just kind of like,
No, yeah, I'm
oh
pretty
my
sure it's
god,
probably
yeah,
similar.
is this character like he's doing exactly what I think he's doing? But it's just kind of like, dude, really? Come on. Well, I know that the plot has to move forward, but yeah, that. I mean, it's simple. It's moments like that, and just when he's inspecting the corpse, and then the guy just spits on him. Where I'm just kind of like, really, really, dude.
This is basically an update of the Western drifter comes to town and solves all the problems, then goes on his way movie. Like that is this.
Yeah.
but in the South and with a murder mystery and with all this other great stuff happening, great performances, and we've already talked about the Ray Charles song, but then Quincy Jones wrote the music for everything else. But I
Score's
don't
really
know, it's
good in
just
quite a
it's a
few
great
places, though. Yeah, I thought it.
yeah, it's just a
Yeah.
really good slice of life American story. Like I'm sure you could change things around to make it, work for somewhere else, but this is definitely something that just makes sense in the time period in the South, in the way that To Kill a Mockingbird wouldn't really make sense anywhere else. This is the same way, except whereas that one is very preachy and don't throw stones and let's trust the black folk. This is
I think it's
just
more not necessarily preachy. I mean, yes, a monologue is very clear on the surface, but it's more
uh
about common sense rather than
Gregory Peck in that movie is 100% looking at the camera every time he's on screen and just, these are good folk.
you're in.
The black people sit up top in the church. I don't know.
That is one of the best performances of all
I'm
time,
not
in
saying
my
it's
opinion,
bad. I'm
man.
saying that the
Like
movie has a very different agenda. It's
the message
trying
is
to
there.
teach something else, whereas this is just, this is the way it is. This is how people are. Here's a story about it. You should rethink some shit.
I do think that's fair. Like I said, I think that's the best stuff in here is the racism, not subtext, but text rather. Because it is clearly there on the surface. But I feel like it starts off real strong in the first half because of that.
Uh-huh.
Because of that tension there, Sidney Poitier's just his presence and his confidence on screen is just just so electrifying. Like in everything he's done, everything I've seen him in, like really, he's one of the greatest actors of all time. Just has an
Did you
amazing
see?
screen presence.
You saw Guess Who's Coming to Dinner a
You've
couple
seen
days
that,
ago,
right?
right? I have not. We
Oh my
actually said
god!
this. I've seen the remake with Ashton Kutcher. I've seen
Okay,
Guess
yeah,
Who.
no, I mean, that's the other movie that this was nominated against in 1967. I,
Was it really?
yeah, and
He was in
I
both of
love,
the big movies.
I
That's
love
cool.
that movie so much more. I mean, that is a great movie. Coincidentally, The Graduate was also nominated that year, and that's one of my favorite movies of all time. But whatever, who cares? It's the Oscars. That movie has
Yeah.
yeah, longevity. But yeah, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? So good. Like obviously, the racism commentary is there, but also is able to be very funny at the same time. And yeah, I guess you might also say it's preachy at the end, the moral that's addressed to that main
This?
story. But it's like
Oh, that one. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but I mean, just the way that I think it handles the development there, it's I don't know. I guess because it's a comedy and it's easier to laugh at, it's definitely it's a big part of what the plot is about. Whereas this is you
Just
have
Dixie Fried Cinema.
well, it's just this is like you got a murder mystery, and it really has nothing to do with race. It's just you happen to have this other aspect of the story that's happening in there, and I don't think the murder mystery is bad necessarily, but
It's not great.
yeah,
I don't know.
after a while, it just my interest was definitely waning, and I didn't think it was bad. It's just I just didn't feel it was as strong, and I mean,
I think it's just they wanted to reach a runtime. I'm sure that there was a lot better content there that the studio cut out. But I appreciate that it treats the audience as a capable detective. Like there's no parlor scene. It doesn't for so much of the movie, Sidney Poitier is going, well, we didn't do this. You can check for this. Isn't the rigor
yeah,
mortis in his jaw this good? Blah, blah. Like he's really telling you and the people on screen at the same time, like, this is how I came to this conclusion. And as it goes, it progresses, and you realize, like, oh, he is a really good fucking detective. Like, he is an expert in homicide. You just, or at least I did anyway. I stopped questioning how he got to things. And when he figured it out by then, I was like, well, he's a really smart guy. I appreciate that he didn't have to start telling everyone
I know,
still.
but that's the best thing I could say about it. Like, I guess on some level, I can appreciate that it is not. It's a mystery that. Well, actually, no, that's not what I mean. Is that it usually. That's the entire point. Is that these
yeah, the
cops were
strength of the
jumping
movie.
to the obvious conclusions, and he's the guy asking the questions, going, like, no, there's more going on here, and it's not necessarily what we think it's going to be. And when you get to the resolve, it's definitely not at all the conflict that you would have thought it was on the surface. It just happens to be this one thing, and that's on some level, I guess it's refreshing to see that. But I don't know, maybe it's just hard to come up with a mystery that's all that fascinating, I guess. Or like, I mean, you really
I
have
just,
to
I
have like
think,
an interesting case to support any movie, regardless of whatever social aspect there is happening there. And here, I don't know, it just didn't suck me in
yeah,
as
I
much as I
think what
wanted.
your problem here is that the mystery isn't what's important on the screen. It is the social commentary. It is this detective making peace with the sheriff and them coming to terms with who they are and realizing that they're a product of their environment. Like there's that really great scene where he says like, "Oh, I'm gonna, whip you with a horse tail or something," and he's like, "Oh, my dad used to say that." Or like that's something my daddy would say every once in a while, and he did once or twice. And they bond. It's like, well, blah blah
Yeah.
blah. And it's like that look he has with the mechanic, where he's like, "Oh no, you're gonna stay here," and you could tell, you could sense him. He's like, "Oh, these are field folk. These are poor black people from the South. I don't really want to stay here. I'm from Philadelphia. I got the money. Why don't I go to the motel?"
There's little things like
Um,
that, but yeah, after a while, I don't know. Just for me, it felt more plot driven rather than character driven, and it's really, I think, about after 40 minutes in that
goes
didn't.
into mystery mode.
Yeah, I just felt like the focus was more on that, and that's. I just don't feel like these characters were changing in any way, and it's I can be interested and my attention can be held together by plot, but I just don't feel like there was
It's like
much
I said,
affecting anything else after a while.
this is the Drifter comes to town genre.
Hmm.
Like usually the town changes and the main character doesn't, and that's kind of the same
And
thing
we
that
don't get a
happens here.
sense of this town though, like just a few people
Well,
in there,
maybe
but
not
I
the whole
yeah.
town, but yeah, the guy that got caught, who the second suspect,
Hmm.
okay, Sam Wood, the other sheriff, the deputy, okay, the black lady at the end. Like there are certain characters, definitely the sheriff, that have changed for the better, I would assume, just based on their interactions with, oh, what's his name? Virgil, what's his
Tibbs.
last Tibbs,
Come,
yeah.
how really?
I had to think about it for a second. Give me a
One of the
break.
greatest lines of all
You just
time.
saw
They
this. Okay,
call
I saw
me
this at the
Mr.
beginning of the
Tibbs.
day.
I've known that line like since I was
I don't know
12.
that
Yeah, that's
line.
that's on the AFI like top 10
So
greatest lines of all time. I'm pretty sure, I mean, you've probably seen clips in film class where that line has come up. I'm
maybe, I
guessing
don't
that
know.
is
It escaped me. I knew his first name. I know the character. I know some of his lines.
I've
I'm
never
okay
known
with
his
talking
first
about
name
him.
until now, but
Well, hey,
Tibbs, come on, that's an amazing. I'm pretty sure that's
I
the name of the
got it on
sequel,
my
isn't
own.
it?
I just didn't get it immediately. Huh?
That's the name of the sequel, isn't it?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe so.
That's a great
I
line.
like I forgot
Or
there's
it's
a
a great
sequel when you
delivery
just
of the
said it.
line.
But I mean, if something wins Best Picture, especially of that era, it kind of has to get it. I don't know. It's interesting. This is '67. This is right around the time of neo noir picking up. If this was shot a different way, this very much so could have been a noir movie with a socially correct, or like a social commentary at the same time. It could have been something very different. Like Body Double could have been this movie. Like
Well,
if it was
noirs are
just
more associated, I think, with metropolitan areas, whereas this is the South. I've never seen a Southern noir. I don't think. I don't think there is
there
one.
are a couple. I'm trying to think of one right now. There are a couple. There are a couple examples. There's a different term for it. What was it? It's the one with Denzel Washington and Gene Hackman. I believe it's Mississippi's Burning, and that's like it has to do with the Ku Klux Klan and some other stuff. But there are a couple examples. But yeah, I don't know. What's your rating for this? I know you haven't seen mine.
I haven't decided. Three maybe. I mean I don't know. I think it's
Really?
good. Like I think it really just comes to how I felt about the other 2/3 of the movie, where I don't think it's going to stick with me, honestly, as much as the other stuff. There's little moments in there, but I don't know. And I guess it's also knowing that this won against Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. That
You can't think about the Oscars that way,
no, no,
though.
no, no, no. But I mean, just that thought did come to mind of like, well, that was a movie that just for me, I got more enjoyment out of it, and I think just
Well, it's a comedy. Of course, you got more
yeah,
enjoyment
no,
out of it.
and but also, I mean, I just felt like it. I don't know, it was more effective, but then again, it's not set in the South, so
Yeah, it's an easier
yeah,
story.
I guess. But I mean, that movie, you gotta check out that movie. It's so good, so good.
I will.
I wouldn't say that this is hard. It's just, yeah, I mean, I really think it's just a plot thing of murder mysteries can be fun, but and this one's not bad, but just at the end that doesn't leave that big of an impression on me, and I mean, then again, I could see how, especially in the '60s, like even regardless of like Vietnam and the hippie generation and all this stuff going on, like there's some pretty hefty stuff that's brought up that I don't think has come up in movies, like when you bring up abortion and pedophilia or peeping toms, like this is still pretty early to bring it up, at least in the way that this does it.
I mean, it's a very strong-handed. There's no way to watch this and not understand what they're talking about. Like it's not subtle racism. It's
Hmm.
very much there. I don't know. I gave this 5 stars on Letterboxd. It might not be my favorite movie, but I think it's flawless. There's definitely it could have had a couple of scenes to buffer some character development and stuff, but I just think it's shot really damn well. The characters, especially the two main ones, are really interesting. You get enough. I mean, yeah, maybe it's the stupid cops making the choices, but you get enough red herrings that it has some interesting loopholes or some like different tracks that you go down for the mystery. I mean, as much as I like the Who Done It, this is kind of a not. It doesn't try to change the genre, but it definitely isn't
It's
as
not
straightforward
conventional,
of one.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
the
isn't
setting is definitely unique
unconventional
for that.
whodunit. Yeah, like it does enough that I'm interested both in the characters and their safety, and yet also the dynamic of the town and how things are happening. Like this is the kind of movie that would be a really great HBO or Netflix show. Kind of like a True Detective, where just a whole season, especially when you do it the racism with a more in-depth detective, or not a detective, but a case rather.
Hmm.
Like actually see him doing more walking beats and figuring things out and interviewing more people.
That
Um,
sounds like it honestly might work better for me. I mean, I don't
right?
know. Yeah, just it. I really, that's the best I could say is that I was really into it when it started, and then after a while, I wasn't disliking it. But I just didn't feel the same punch that I felt in the beginning.
You've written things, you know it's hard to have the
Oh
same
yeah, no,
energy throughout. So
no,
like, especially
absolutely.
in
It's just I gotta speak though as a moviegoer. I mean, clearly
sure.
this is working for other people, and I can't just stand here and be like, oh yeah, it's great and be the same echo chamber. It's like I got to be honest, just for me, I don't think it's bad. Just I don't know, something just
Yeah,
wasn't.
well,
I
this isn't an
I might
episode of
have to watch
Columbo.
it. Like I feel like because it's so highly acclaimed, I naturally, when you're offering faint praise or something that other people are like aiming high for, then that obviously the urge to want to revisit something and try to understand what it is that other people are seeing comes about. So I don't know. Maybe I'll have to, at some point, I think I'll have to see this again and or reevaluate it.
This isn't Do the Right Thing,
No.
but it definitely has, at the time anyway, a social message that should still be revisited. As it's just as important now as it was
Yeah,
then.
I don't think the time would
Obviously,
have
there's
allowed a message along the lines of do the right thing to be that heavy handed.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's what I'm saying. Like like one of the first like race movies out there. You can't make it, fight the system, fight the power.
Yeah, but
They're killing our youth in the streets
I don't know. I just think the subject
because
though
they're
of
listening to loud music.
I think the subject of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner just is much more like just far more risque for that time, I guess. Like it, I don't know, just provokes a bigger reaction, I would imagine.
Maybe I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, when people are talking about all-time great movies, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner is not one that comes up in conversation obviously all the time. I mean, I'm sure it's a good movie. I'll check it out eventually. I haven't seen many films that Sidney Poitier was a star
I
in.
wish I saw that movie in a theater, honestly. Like I imagine that because I was laughing at home on my own, like out
Is it
loud. I
is
thought
it
it was
Spencer
really funny.
Tracy who's
Yeah,
the dad?
yeah,
Yeah,
Spencer Tracy and Katherine Hepburn.
I don't like her for some reason.
Dude,
I think it's the name, to be honest. Just the fact that she's also a Hepburn, and she was in a lot more movies. I think that's what it is.
hmm.
Have you seen Philadelphia Story?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
See, I don't like her in that. Just for some reason, it's like, ooh, it's got Jimmy Stewart, it's got Cary Grant, and her. What? They're in love with her?
Have you seen Bringing Up Baby?
No, I know
No.
that's I believe that's on Netflix. It might be in public domain actually, or it was on
No,
Netflix
I
for a while
think
anyway.
Warner Brothers. I think it's an MGM flick that Warner Brothers owns.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I guess my 5 star kind of gives it all, and I already said it anyway. But yeah, I think this is a really flawless movie that stands the test of time, and you should check out. If for no other reason, like Steve kind of picked it subliminally because of Oscar So White, just to know that besides 12 Years a Slave and Driving Miss Daisy, that they can pick a movie with a main black actor in it to win not only Best Picture but to be revered by filmgoers. Like, it isn't black and white. We're just in this movie anyway, but not all the time.
I mean, for historical purposes, like yes, this is worth checking out. I feel like just for me, the experience for me, I don't know. I just feel like there's still something left to be desired, and I'm maybe I'll on a second viewing at some point down the line I'll get more out of it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I can. It's like, do you know when you watch a movie like one time and you just don't feel like you can competently necessarily give a criticism for it because you feel like you may need to look for something else? Do you know what I mean?
Sorta.
Something like that. I feel
I
like
felt
that's the
that way in
feeling.
classes before.
Yeah, like I feel like that's just the feeling I've got here. I
Is
don't.
that because of the reverence it has and the acclaim along with the awards it's garnished,
I'm
or is that just for personal reasons? Or can you not disassociate the two?
Well, I don't know what you mean by personal reasons. I don't know. It's just I feel like I
Like
saw
when
something at first and then I
uh,
just wasn't
we
seeing
had this
stuff up to par
conversation,
later.
we had this conversation off air the other day.
Hmm.
Like we were talking about The Godfather and Stanley Kubrick, and when something has such acclaim, when it's held in such esteem by so many people, it's hard to really get your own voice out there because you're so clouded in your thoughts by the thoughts of everyone else. Do you think that's what it is? Because if you had seen this for the first time, you knew absolutely nothing about it. You didn't know it won an Oscar or several rather, and you were just enjoying a piece of cinema. Do you think you'd be as critical of it?
I mean, that could be the case. You know, for me with The Godfather, like Godfather and this, they both set up great characters that you're immediately interested by, but with The Godfather, I'm following it with them on that journey and I'm seeing how they develop through it. Whereas with this, like through the plot of this, I just don't like I see in the end what the change was, but I just never felt that journey like in the same way that I would have with something like The Godfather. Like I get the change. It's just I don't know. It just didn't develop with me in a way that necessarily resonated.
I'm just chalking that up to the failures of the genre, not the murder mystery, but as I've said a couple times here, the drifter. You know, when you have a stoic character that's not going to change and is just there to really kind of guide everyone else through the Bodunk town, there's not much room for, change when they're already on a mission. Like he's the Deus Ex Machina. Like he's been sent to this town to right a wrong,
You
and
know,
he has
he's
to,
basically he's perfect. There's very few
yeah,
flaws with him.
he
Yeah.
has to solve this murder so they can get their factory, so everyone can get a job.
I mean, the main arc is mainly for the sheriff who would have just jumped to
Yeah.
conclusions and gone the easy way. But yeah,
They keep telling him throughout the movie, like the last sheriff would have shot that nigger dead. Like it's just something they say. That's how
hmm
the town was, and he slowly but surely starts trying to do actually police work. He starts thinking for himself. He starts criticizing his fellow officers.
Well, talking about it now,
He could make a
the way
difference.
that you're talking about it now, it's becoming clear to me actually that it is the sheriff's story that's the main character and it's his arc that matters. And I think just for me watching it, that was not who I was interested by as a screen presence. It was really Sidney Poitier, who, I mean, just that's the character that I wanted to follow along with the whole way. When he's not in a scene, I was a little bit less
Well, I mean,
interested.
isn't that the same for the Man with No Name? Like for that trilogy, it's the same thing basically, right? He doesn't change. It's Yojimbo. He doesn't change. He's there.
Okay, but
He,
those movies are fun, though. I don't think they're making any
yeah,
big artistic statement. I mean,
but I'm saying
like
it's
For a
the
Few
same
Dollars More is a
genre.
great action movie.
I'm saying it's the same genre though. Like he's not doing anything. It's the crooks and the gangsters and the women around him that are changing, and he's helping them change, or he's bringing peace for the people, or bringing prosperity
Yeah, but
rather.
I don't know. I think there's just the difference between a genre film that's fun, even though it's still putting across the basic message of good ethics. But then when you're watching something that
Can
informs reality of what's happening at that time in a great way, I don't know. I just feel like maybe there's
I
that
mean,
need for a little more to
could you
resonate.
can't really make this movie fun, and at the
No, no,
same
no,
time
not fun.
you can't, when you go past a certain
Well, I
place,
actually,
it starts being preachy.
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't expect this movie to be fun. I'm not gonna say that I didn't. I'm
I
not.
mean, you see some really good tits in the first 10 minutes.
Okay,
What more
yeah,
can you
but I
want?
just don't think that tonally this movie was going for anything like that in a way that was titillating. Like it was just there and it was presented.
Titty lady.
It was there in a down and dirty way. It wasn't. I didn't think there was necessarily anything titillating in that moment, especially when you find out she's 16. That's like,
Shoot.
Yeah.
She wasn't 16.
Make you feel like a pedophile though, doesn't it?
No, because she's not 16. She wouldn't have got the job. You can't do fake frontal nudity at 16.
Oh yeah, I mean, I
Not even in Taxi Driver.
I don't
okay?
know. But yeah, everyone I guess has like those movies that they hear is great, that is a
Yeah.
masterpiece, and
Yeah, The Godfather was one of those for me.
yeah, like
Yeah.
Apocalypse Now is one of those for me. I'm gonna have to watch that again some point down the road. I don't know. I guess we'll see one day. Yeah, but
One day.
yeah, I mean, but yeah, I don't know. I hate it when that happens, but I don't know. It's good discussion though, right? I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I was asking you. Like, do you think this is for personal reasons or because of the claim? And either way,
I still
you
don't
wouldn't
understand
be
what that
able
means by
to
personal reasons,
give,
though.
like, do you personally think it's flawed, or is your mind set in a certain way based on what you know about this film that it's hard for you to look at it with a clean slate? You know, like obviously you're going in with certain expectations. You're not just watching it just because like you picked the movie for fuck's sake.
Hmm.
Whereas I did go with no expectations. Like I did know that it won an Oscar, but this isn't, or two rather, but it's not something that people talk about. This isn't a movie that is in common conversation. It's not a
It's
you
been
have
brought
to
up for
see
me. I've
this.
seen it on lists. A lot of people have hailed it. Like I've very few people have talked about this movie in a way that's
Well,
like no one brings it up and
I meant
says,
for
"Oh, it's
me,
average." So
no, I'm saying for me, like I don't know if anyone's ever really talked to this about this movie to me. Like, you know, for Francis Ford Coppola's
mhm.
movies or Stanley Kubrick, like certain filmmakers, like no one really says, you know, Norman Jewison.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a movie that is, no one talks about it on an auteur admiration level.
And
It's
so
even the right
because of
way I want
that,
to phrase
it just
that, but
no, yeah, that's the right. I think that's the right way to use it, especially given the examples I gave. It's just like I said, I knew very little about it, and I knew that you wanted to see it, and I was very happy that it was on HBO Go, so I could, and I got a little bit of everything that I wanted. Not a lot of a lot. A lot of a little things adds up to a pretty good package, and so I'd buy it for a dollar for that reason, many more. I wasn't the best digital copy. There's some grain on mine. Hopefully, they do a 4K restoration in the future.
well, apparently the Blu-ray looks about as good as it can because the original negative of this doesn't
Shit.
exist anymore.
Good
So,
job, Hollywood.
yeah, so yeah.
Well, it is United Artists Pictures, so what can you do? You know,
Yeah, Library of
screw
Congress,
you,
I guess.
Chaplin.
The Library of Congress, I guess, didn't pick this in time to preserve it. But I guess, I mean, for personal reasons, like you said, I think this is the scenario that I imagine happening for me is when I see something like, because this has happened before where I've seen something the first time and I'm not that hot on it, but then on a second viewing, it somehow just floors me and like I don't understand what it was that I saw that first time. Like Citizen Kane was that for me, that was definitely the movie that first I saw it. I was just like, well, what are people
Talking
talking
about good murder mysteries.
Yeah, and then
I mean, it's not exactly
no,
murder, but
no,
yeah, it's a
but
murder mystery.
no.
Noir.
I guess, yeah, find out what someone said.
There's a
before-
MacGuffin, okay,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there's a
No,
femme fatale,
it's
and
fair,
it's
but
shot in black and white, and lots of fog, and people in power with faces hidden in shadows.
the point is,
and
I do think
trench coats.
I do think it's possible, like, and this is why even with movies that you like the first time, you might appreciate them more with the second viewing because you already know what the events were that happened. So
Yeah, you start watching
so you
performances,
see, yeah,
and
little
people in the
things,
background.
little things just hit you after a while, and that could very well happen. I would love it if it does, but
Did
we'll
you
see.
notice? Did you notice the field of view in this film that it was really deep? There's like this one shot where they're in. It's the sheriff with I don't even know who he was, but he was like in the auto shop, and there's a welder in the background, and everyone's in focus, and you look in the back, and there's people coming out of the shop. Just really interesting.
I did not
Kind of
notice
gave
that.
me that Citizen Kane shot technique to it. I don't know if there was, the three levels of scenery where there's foreground, middle ground, and background, and they all are telling different parts of the story. I don't know if that was the case here, but it definitely looked a certain way.
Like it just gives you a sense of the environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not notice that. No.
Next time you watch it, you'll have something else to look forward to.
All right.
Thanks for listening. We hope it's been a pleasure. If you like this show and you want to hear more of our wonderful voices on a weekly basis, check out 2 Cents. I'll recap what's happened in film, TV, and tech news.
We're also on the titular Dollar Review Show, a spoiler-free critique of new releases or anything we've discovered on our own, whether that be TV, music, etc.
You can find all of our content at dollarreviews.net. Follow us on Twitter or like us on Facebook at Dollar Reviews.
We're available on iTunes, YouTube, TuneIn, Stitcher, and constantly looking to expand to other platforms.
If you listen somewhere we're currently not available, and you'd like to contribute some talking points, send a Death to Cinema request, or if you just want to laugh at us, you can do so by reaching out to us on social media or send an email to brian@dollarreviews.net.
Or you can email me as well, steve@dollarreviews.net.
You can follow me personally on Twitter at Brian Gillis, that's BryonGillis, and now you know how to spell email too, and also under the same name on the lovely site Letterboxd, which acts as my film diary, where I rate films that I'm watching, write the occasional review, and even sometimes compile lists.
You can also find me on Twitter at S_MTX, and also follow my film diary at Letterboxd under the same name, where I log everything I watch, and sometimes write brief reviews.
That's it for this week. Until next time, keep the change.